3, 2, 1.
Okay, so we'll stop the sharing and we'll have Tom with us. So welcome.
Welcome. Welcome, Tom. We're very happy to have you with us.
And welcome to our Domine.
Welcome to our Domine.
That is a stronger, happier, and holier families. And we have the honor to have Tom with us. That I just met Tom a few weeks ago, or months ago, and it's been great talking to him. And I can't wait to ask him to please, Tom, be with us in these times, as he has been sharing with us in his blogs and his podcast that I've listened to, and I got really excited about that. And then when I found more about him, I also found out that he's also a songwriter. He sings. And as you can see in his wall, he has some DVDs there that I asked him about, CDs that I asked him, and he won some awards. So that's great to know that he's, and he actually created a band, right, Tom?
That's right. Band.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Hopefully, if we have time, you can sing another song for us, maybe. If not, you can always go to his blog or his website, and there they are. I find you on YouTube as well. You can hear him sing too. And he's also an author, as he writes. And then also he founded, he's the CEO with his wife, he founded the Backpack Friends. And that's giving meals to all those kids in schools that don't have the income to eat. And even though I know myself, when we're going through a stressful time financially, that kids can eat free at school, but it's only lunch or breakfast, and many times they go home hungry, and that's where Tom comes along. So he can bring that to them so they don't go home hungry, or in the weekend they don't have food. So Tom, if you can tell us a little bit about Backpack Friends, it'll be wonderful in case people have not heard about this.
Yeah, so thank you both for inviting me. It's kind of funny. We met just a few weeks ago, I think, but we've talked a lot, interacted a lot. I feel like I know you guys already. So Backpack Friends started as just a passion project. So I was working at the time. I was working full time at my church, and Heather and I got word that there was a girl in high school who had passed out on Monday morning about 10:30 in her English class because she just didn't have enough to eat. And it's 2 blocks away from us, and we didn't realize that there were that many children in our city that didn't have food for the weekend. So we knew about the school meal program. So we adopted a school, and we started feeding 12 kids, elementary school kids at Spring Hill Elementary School, just a few blocks away. And that grew, it grew from 1 school to 2 schools to 4 schools to 7 schools to 10 schools. And now we're feeding about 1,200 or 1,300 kids a month. We're in 3 counties and 10 school districts and 25 or 30 campuses. And it has just been an amazing journey. The stories that we hear, about kids who don't have enough to eat, or adults who, when we were kids, when I was a kid, I think I may have told you this already, but my mother, when I have a younger brother, and at dinner time, my mom would fix dinner, and my dad and my brother and I would sit down at the table and eat. My mom would kind of just hang out in the kitchen. She would clean, or she would put things away, or she would, clean up. And I didn't realize when we were younger that she was waiting to see if there was any food left. And if there was food left after we ate, then she would eat. And if not, then she would just clean up. And we never knew that as kids. But as an adult, now looking back, I can see that. So it's been something that's real personal to me. And it's a blessing to be part of bringing hope to so many kids, so many families, right? Like we were talking earlier, the family is something we have to protect. We have to nurture and support our families. So it's been a huge thing.
So, well, thank you for listening to God's Calling, Tom, and for you and your wife to step out and do this, because it's not easy to start something. As we know, my husband and I were starting this ministry, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. So thank you for your
Yeah.
effort to have those kids being fed. And I think also just not the food, but I believe when you give food to the kids that way, they believe they're cared for, like they're cared for, not only food.
Mm.
And now they say when you were younger, I remember too, when I was young and just come to the United States, we were very well off, thank God. But then there was a moment that things got very rough. And I remember my mom just giving us tuna and tuna and tuna and tuna and chicken and rice and beans. You're like, wait a minute.
Yes.
And I was young, so I didn't understand that much. And she will say, well, I'll get something else later, whatever. But now that I'm older, I can see there was a moment that, oh my goodness, what am I going to feed them? And that's, let's see what can happen. And I wished that programs like that were, like yours would have been there, or at least my mom would know about all those programs, so then I would not to worry so much in those increases. So I think families, we always go through a cycle. All families, I think, go through a cycle of having or not having financially situations. So I think it helps in every moment. So thanks. And as well, like I was saying, he's a songwriter. And so also he sings in a band, and he's been married for 25 years and has 3 kids
20,
as well.
28 years, right?
Oh yeah, 28 years.
Yes.
You're right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, you got it right. 28 years. You've been married 28 years. So you can definitely tell us about that advice and 3 kids and doing all this. And lately, what really fascinated me about Tom when I met him was reading some of his blogs and listening to it, and just talking about COVID-19, how he has been able to change it around instead of affecting him, which, I mean, it does affect us in a way, but also how to turn it around and make it better for us. And seeing that there's a positive side to all of this. And if there's not, let's make one, because if not, we'll go crazy. And also seeing in God's light. So I saw that. I saw some blogs of Tom. I kind of said, please, Tom, talk to us about this, because I think right now, when COVID-19 started, it was hard, but at least you're like, at least for me, and for many friends I spoke with, they were like, oh, thank God, I needed to rest. Or I needed to be home.
Yes.
I was just running around like crazy. It's time for a family. This is great. But after a while, I was like, wait, this is too much. And now the school is starting, and some schools are not starting physically. They're going to be more online, or some are doing it, but with many restrictions. So there's a lot of, for families, a lot of pressure going on, because how do I start my job again? How do I work again? Having kids at home still, or having my kids later, or all the things are happening. So all the insecurities, uncertainties, even job-wise, all that. Hopefully with Tom, we can help out some families to have some breathe and see what we can do to help them out in these situations. So that's where we came along with Tom, and wanted to ask him questions so he can give us his testimony and advices, as he also at his church, he's one of the leaders and gives advices and worship in that. So also he knows that as very well, so he can help us with this. And in anyone who's listening would like to ask a question, please do so. And if not, it's okay. You can just listen, and this will be taped and will be later on also. If you can share with families, that's perfectly too. Okay. So one of the questions, go ahead, sweetie.
Yeah, so I would say no, just, I mean, starting with this, talking about the COVID-19, I mean, does that has any, what has been the impact of the COVID-19 personally with you? I mean, if you could share something with our listeners.
Yes. So it's COVID-19, I think, caught us all off guard, right? We try to prepare for crisis. You try to prepare your family for things, and I don't think we saw this coming. And it's like we were talking earlier, when it first happened, we felt like, okay, this is good. This will give us time to rest and to spend time together as a family. But we didn't expect it to be 3, 4, 5, 6 months, dragging on. Thankfully, I personally, with Backpack Friends, with the activities at the church, it's been challenging. Trying to lead worship at church, play music at church, and there's no one at church because we can't get together. So singing to an empty room is kind of a strange thing. But on a personal level, we started off with this thinking this is going to be great. We're going to do, I do bike rides in the evening with my daughter. We go on walks, we go on hikes, we play board games, we, do dinner and a movie together as a family. We do those kinds of projects, and those are great. But now it's like we're tired of those things. We've been doing them for so long. You can only watch so much Netflix, but like for me on a personal level, it has exposed. I like to tell people crisis. It disrupts everything, right? It disrupts everything you have no control over, but it also exposes our weaknesses. It doesn't really change. It didn't really change me so much as it just exposed me. It exposed my strengths. It exposed where I had discipline in my life, but then it exposed where I didn't have discipline. It exposed if I had fear, it just magnified that fear. If I had anxiety or if I had worry, then it just made that anxiety and that worry more. It's like squeezing a lemon, right? You squeeze a lemon and you don't get orange juice, you get lemon juice. And so whatever's in me, it squeezed it out of me in a lot of ways. So that has been real eye-opening for me, and I've talked about that in some of my blogs and videos and that kind of thing. But the pros of that, right? The positive of that is that I feel like we've been given the gift of time. I feel like with everything shut down like it is, we really have control. We have a say over so much of our life right now. Like you were talking earlier, you run into people and you say, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. How are you?" "I'm good. I'm tired. I'm busy." Now I have control over my time in some new ways that I didn't have before. And so that's been a real positive thing. That Jesus and Abraham Lincoln both said, "Seek and you will find," right? Jesus said it first, Abraham Lincoln said it next. But that's true. If I'm looking for opportunity, if I'm looking for ways to serve, there's a lot of opportunity right now to serve and to love and to reach out to people and to encourage people right now.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was thinking what you were saying, that this, instead of making us dwell inside of us and be more anxiety, it should help us, like you're saying, to reach out and help in any way we can. Maybe many of us who I know friends are just having babies, so they cannot do it that way, but they can definitely pray about it or go out in their way with another way. There's teenagers who can do many other things. There's couples who can also go to the parishes and help in the parishes. As I remember one time, listening to people, of course, nagging and being negative about it, because of course it comes out, like you said, that the worst of us comes out. But that worst that comes out, you have to channel it to the way the Lord will do it, the way that God will do it, to make it positive. So I remember one bishop said to me, "Well, you know what? It's incredible how I see now all these people who I never saw before in my life. Now they're coming to me and trying to help me. So that's a good thing, because I never knew they were, and now they're coming to help me." And there was one that said, "Well, if your church or parish or schools, whatever it is that you're in, and you don't feel that community anymore, instead of talking bad about it, well, go and serve, go and help. Well, how can I make that happen so we can unite ourselves again in a way that is available, or we can actually do it?" And I remember one time, Sweetie, you said to me, leaders in the world, or big leaders, or people who make an impact in the world, are those who
turn on any negative situation, they will turn it on positive. They will take that negativeness or whatever you call it, and then they will turn it into something positive that they can use to continue help or to continue leading. So
actually, now that you say that, the movie The Greatest Showman, actually it's a very good movie that shows how everything was so negative for him when he was so poor. And even when he was finally famous, there was a person who was in a way against him and saying bad things in the news about him, and he turned around. He said, "Well, you know what, whoever brings this newspaper to me, they will get free entrance. Like that. So I'm like, in other words, he turned it around and say, okay,
Uh-huh.
well, fine. You spoke about this badly. Well, I'll use it. But oh wow.
See, well, that's a great point. There's a video, and I'll send you the link. But um, last September, October, something like that, at my daughter's school, there was a pothole. Okay, and it's a funny story that we tell we call it our tribe, right? So in our community of people, we tell the story. There's this pothole right at the drop-off line. When you drop off your kids to school, and you make a right turn, and the back tire of my truck, my pickup, hit that pothole every day, and I got so tired of it. I got really frustrated. So I decided, and I made a YouTube video. I decided what I would do is I would go to Home Depot and I would buy gravel, and I would go fill this pothole, because I thought if it was bothering me, rather than complain about it, I would try to fix it, try to contribute. So I went and bought a couple bags of gravel, and I filled this pothole. And I set my phone up to record, and recorded it, and talked about how in our communities, it's better to be a contributor than a critic. So, trying to do that well. What I didn't know was that I don't know anything about asphalt and roads and gravel and potholes. So, but what I didn't know is that every time somebody drove through that pothole, their tire would grab pieces of gravel and throw it out all over the road. And so it made a huge mess. But the next day, there's a second video, because the next day the city of Pflugerville came out and fixed it right with asphalt. And so they sent a whole crew out. I don't know if they saw the video or if they got all, complaints because I had made a mess, but they sent someone out to fix it. They fixed the pothole. So the second day I went out and I did a second video, and talked about how, just like with our backpack friends program, once you see a problem and you see a way that you can serve, if you will say yes and just try, okay, Lord, I'm going to do this. There's a need. I'm going to do my best to fix that need, to fill that need. Somebody will come along and help you. Someone will show up with expertise and they will help you fix the problem, or they'll come alongside you to help you get the job done. And that's one of the things that COVID has reminded me about, is that there are all these needs. And if I get up in the morning and my mindset is, I'm going to find someone today to serve. Who can I serve today? Who can I encourage? Who can I support? Who can I help? Then not only does that fulfill me and my mission, but it also brings other people like you guys along to go, yeah, that's something we want to be a part of, right? So there's strength in that, in those numbers of people coming along beside you.
Right. And now that you see people coming along, we're talking about people outside, normally we're talking about, but also we're in our families, we have our own battles in trying to let this time be a wife without a husband, or situations, or little kids, new babies. We have all these different people who lost jobs, different things that we have to handle. But for you, Tom, if you can share with us how, with COVID-19, what has helped you to make your family stronger or happier, even in the times where it's more chaotic or more uncertainties. Even the kids, like my kids, ask me, Mom, what are we going to do this year in homeschooling? And I'm like, I think we're going to go day by day. I can plan with you, but I'm not sure, because things are not the way they are. And so it's that uncertainty, but at least trying to give the kids as much security you can as a parent, of course. And so if you can share with us with your kids, as a father, well, I can talk about it, but one, if you can share with us as a father, as a husband, even as a son. You were talking to me one day that you have your dad, that he's older and he's in Houston, so it's and all of us, we're all part of this, sons, daughters, kids.
Right. Yeah. And that's absolutely. And I am not perfect by any means. I make mistakes. I get aggravated and I get frustrated, and I get to the end of the day some days and go, oh, I could have done that better. I could have handled this better.
Right.
There's some things that I've learned in these past 3 or 4 months. One is that it helps me if I can stay on my daily routine. If I'm consistent about getting up before the kids, getting up before Heather, and having my quiet time where I can pray and I can write and I can have coffee and I can exercise and I can do that to prepare me for the day so that I can be my best. There's some little things that we've done, and everybody's different.
Right.
May not apply. My kids are a little bit older. I have a 11-year-old and a 16-year-old that are still at home. But one of the things that I've done is we've had a family meeting, and I said, okay, I have to work. So I'm going to come out to the studio and I'm going to work for 45 minutes. I'm going to work from 9 until 9:45. And then at 9:45, I'm going to get up and take a break and come back inside. And if it's at all possible, don't disturb me while I'm, for 45 minutes. If there's no blood and there's no vomit, then, it might can wait. So, but being able to communicate and to say, I need to work at this time. If you have an issue, you need something, then, if it can wait, let's wait till 9:45. I'll be back in, and I that way I can be focused on them and not be aggravated that I got interrupted. That's, those kinds of things.
Right.
For me, the challenge of working from home is that my tendency is that I can work all the time. So if I'm at home and work is at home, then all of a sudden there's no break. There's always work to be done.
Right.
So in my phone, I schedule on my calendar, I schedule, family time. I put things like dinner at 5 o'clock, or a movie with the kids, or a bike ride with Michaela at 8. And I try to block that time just like it was an appointment, as if it was a meeting at the church or it was a meeting for something else. So because I want them to know, I want to look back on this time, and I want my kids and my grandkids, when I have grandkids, I want to be able to tell them that Heather and I, we did our best, that we tried our very best during this time.
Right.
We limit social media. We limit the news. Like, we don't watch hardly any news anymore. If something is important, you're going to text me, you're going to call me, you're going to tell me, somebody's going to say, oh, this is happening. There's a whole lot that goes on the news, on TV, that I just don't want those voices in our heads as a family. Technology can be a great tool, but it's a terrible master, right? And I think sometimes we unconsciously, we tell our kids, or we as a family go, we're just going to watch this, or we're going to spend 3 hours on Facebook or what, and we have all these voices in our head. So as a family, we try real hard to make sure the voices that are in our house are positive voices.
Right.
Whether it's movies or TV. We watch a lot of YouTube, so speakers and pastors and audio books, those kinds of things. I lost you for a second, sorry. So those kinds of things have been real important, so and for Heather and I as a couple, there's some things that we have done. We have at 10 o'clock at night, I turn off my phone. If the world is going to end, it won't matter if I get a text or not. It doesn't matter. So there are times that as a couple, we have to really, because our family is important, right? And if Heather and I don't have a good relationship, it's going to affect our kids. It's going to affect our community. It's going to affect the backpack friends. It's going to affect the church. It's going to affect everybody.
Right.
So we try to guard, like our 28-year anniversary is this coming Saturday. It's a week from today. And I tell people, thank you. That's a long time. And I tell people she's still the love of my life. She's my ride or die. Like we have the best time. We're good friends. We laugh together. We still hold hands when we watch TV together. Not that we're perfect, but that we have to be real intentional about protecting,
right,
especially during this time.
right. Right. No, very important. And I think you hit it on the nail right now, where you're saying as a couple, that it's very important that you take that time together, because working at home, or even the people who are watching might not be working at home, which I think from home, but there's some that are not working from home and they're outside, but still the phone is with you 24/7. So now, even I listened to one day a priest talking and saying how, because we have the phone with us all the time, when you call someone or text someone, you immediately think they have to respond. They have to respond because the phone is with them. And if they don't respond ASAP, you're wondering what happened, what's wrong with this. So in a way, you think that you have the obligation to do like it's okay to call someone at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. or 7 p.m., whatever time it is, about something about work, or your job. And it's like, no, wait a minute, time has passed. Now it's time with my family. No, but you have the phone with you, or you're at home. So that makes it harder to divide the time at work and the time with your family. And like you said, even for me, now that we're starting the ministry, I'm like you, Tom. I can work all the time, all the days, and there's no stop. I can just work, stop it, and go to bed. I'm fine with it. But thank God I have my husband that tells me, no, don't do that. With me online. So it's like, he's like talking and communicating, like, you know what, now your kids need you, or you need to do this, or let's get together, or stop work and let's watch a movie. And I'm like, but we have to do all these things. Like, yeah, but remember, family is first. If we're not good together, we're not well together, then the family, the kids will be bad. And society from there goes bad. So as you mentioned, as you mentioned. But I think what I'm trying to say is, like, what you're saying, Tom, and what I'm saying, I think we all know it, but I think we have to put the practice of doing it, because right now with our situation, that's what the world wants, to divide us, to not be together. And instead of giving God's love through our marriage, then it's the opposite. And I think that's very important that everyone takes, like you're saying, like even backpack friends, the food is very important. But as a family, you need to really take that in consideration. It's so important that might not be so visual, like food, like I'm hungry, I need food, right? So you need to eat. I mean, you just have to go and get it. But sometimes with our relationship with our husband or with our kids, might not be that obvious that it's needed right now, because nothing's happening until maybe a month or later. Oh, my kid, oh, my husband, what's happening? Because you didn't take care of it before, because it's so, I don't know the word, it's not there, so physical, like food, like needing food. So we would have to take care of our families and our relationships at home, and if there's outside at home as well, even if you can't see each other by Zoom, by phone calls, but even writing letters. Now technology, I tell my kids, one of the things I do with them, honestly, as homeschooling, instead, like, well, you have to write, right? It's good writing. So let's write letters. Let's write letters to grandpa. Let's write letters to grandma. Let's write letters to people. You're doing, it's great, because then I get to check your spelling, and they're excited because they're writing to someone, to a book. Like, I'm doing this for something, for someone, so it's more exciting. And at the same time, they're learning how to write. But you're teaching them that it's good to give to someone else.
Yeah.
And now that you, mention all this with the COVID-19 and trying to keep up with our jobs and our relationships, and I'm sure everyone who is listening to us, and we are experiencing, if not all the time, but sometimes during this period, fear. So how can we, I mean, what would be your suggestion, your approach to channel correctly that fear?
Good question.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. It's you're right, because especially in this all this COVID-19, right? It stirred up a lot more fear than before COVID-19. You know, the 1st of March, like you were saying earlier, families, we go in cycles, and sometimes financially is good and sometimes it's hard, and that's normal.
Right.
But now there is so much fear and anxiety. I have there's a couple of things. One is I have a group of friends that we text each other almost every day, almost every night, to say, hey, what did you love about today? What did you accomplish today? Tell me one thing that was good about today. Because
Right.
okay, so let's do a little exercise. Okay, so I want you to do this. Everybody watching, everybody listening. If you're not driving, if you're driving, don't do this. But if you're not driving, then what I want you to do is I want you to look around the room, and I want you to, so I'm going to give you about 10 seconds, and I want you to find everything that's red. Okay, ready? Okay, go. Look around the room. Look at everything red, 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 red. Find something red. Find something red. Find another thing that's red. All right, 3, 2, 1. Now stop. Now close your eyes. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think in your mind and count everything you saw that was green. Okay, now open your eyes. Remember that whole seek and you will find thing? If you're looking for red, you're going to find what's red. If you're looking for green, you're going to, sometimes when you do that exercise, you start going through your mind and you go, okay, well, I have a red folder and I have a red guitar, and then I have this maroon in the carpet, and that's kind of red. And then you see something brown, and I'm going to call that red just to make myself feel better. And that's the way fear works. If you look for things to be afraid of, you're going to find a whole lot of things to be afraid of, because there's a whole lot that we don't have control over. So one of the things we do is we sit with our kids and we talk about gratitude. Tell me what you're thankful for, because we know that God has a plan. We know that God's going to protect us. We know that God knew COVID-19 was coming long before Wuhan, China, and Dr. Fauci and all of those people. He knew that. But the other thing is that in order to battle fear, right, in order to battle worry, we have to have a plan. We have to know, like I did a blog this last week that talked about there are 6 things, 6 truths that have helped me. One is that we know that this will pass, right? My favorite, I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and she said something about her favorite Bible verse. And I told her mine is where it says, and it came to pass, right? Because we know it didn't come to stay. So we know that the world has always had disasters. It's always had diseases. It's always had crisis. But it didn't come to stay, that it'll pass. Right. So I always try to think about the fact that God does things the way the world is designed, the way we're designed. It's in seasons. And even in wintertime, you know that spring is coming. You know that as cold as it is, as dreary as it is, that spring is just around the corner, and spring is going to come. And you have to trust that all of these things that are happening right now it's building muscle in us. It's giving us strength. It's giving us wisdom. It's giving us perspective that we can look on and know that when spring gets here, we're going to be stronger. We're going to be wiser. We're going to be more productive. Our families are going to be stronger. That's part of what dealing with fear is it gives us perspective. And we, as leaders, as leaders in our family, right, as parents, we have to communicate that to our children. Our children need to know that, yeah, the world is crazy, but we have faith. We trust in God. We trust in our family. We're going to rely on each other. And we know that spring is coming.
Right.
We just have to make it through winter right now, right?
And some places winter might be longer or shorter.
Right.
But God knows
Yeah.
that God will give you the graces you need to go through that long period of winter or whatever is going in each one of us. Because I'm thinking of some families might be listening to them, and I'm thinking of, for example, with whoever did Zoom, they say, well, is doing very well because of all this. Well, great, but whoever was working was just opening their business for kids to go jump inside, I don't know, whatever. Well, it's like, so you have this kind of people like, well, they're doing good or better or worse. So, but each one, like you said, each one, God gives us what we need in each moment. And I think your practice of the red thing was really good because it's to like, if I wake up thinking, looking at the fears or looking at the negative things, that's the way I'm going to do my whole day like that. But if I look at the positive things and the things that I can change today, or even conquer in order to be stronger, then that's good. And as I tell one of my children, the oldest one, that he can do this now, the other ones, they're not able to reflect like that. But my oldest, when he has a hard time during the day, which usually happens every day, you know,
All right.
age. And I say, you know what, you have two choices. You can take this worriness or this problem you have, take it and make a virtue out of it, or you can just go and cry about it and be worse. So there's only two options you can do. So choose the best one, because just like you want to go and win the competition of I don't know what, you know, soccer or 5K or whatever you have to work out. Right. Exposed speaking is easy. I mean, in a way, because you see it. But in Chile, well, you want to be stronger and be virtuous. You need to make your muscles inside work, and nobody sees that. Nobody can see it except yourself. So every time you have a problem or a difficulty, make the best out of it so that virtue, that muscle inside can actually grow. And then when bigger things come, you're ready for them. And they're not like, you know, it's like making you the opposite direction. Yeah, exactly. So thank you. And I think like we were talking about fears, that also goes with anxiety, stress. And I think a lot of people right now, even us, there's more stress, more anxiety. And even if things are going well, financially speaking, for those, I think just the stress of having to run home all the time or not having the regular things, or not going back to school the way it was, or not going back, like right now, you want to go to the grocery shop. Oh my gosh, I forgot my thing. I have to go back home and get it. No, something like simple like that. Or, oh, wait a minute. When I go here, I need to go there, and then this is open, this is closed. Oh wait, I want to go to this place, but I have to sign in so I can go and sign because there's only 50% chance of going. So it's not the same thing. Like there's all these rules that makes it, oh, I just want to be like it was before. Or, you know, it's like, oh, so then you just explode and explode with the kids. So it's like, even if things are going fine, extremely, the world can make it seem so bad, I guess.
No,
well, you're right.
Go ahead.
But well,
No.
I was just going to say you're right in that the thing that's helped me is to remember that this has always happened, right? This is not the first time in history that we've had a massive change. Like you know, at some point, 200 years ago, somebody can look this up and tell me when it happened. But 200 years ago, 150 years ago, when when the first automobile was invented, you know, the day before, some poor guy spent his life savings on 100 horses. And then the next day, the car comes out and he's going, oh, I spent all this money. Excuse me. I spent all this money on horses, and now everybody's going to get a car. You know, somebody spent a lot of money in radio advertising, and then the next week, the television came out. You know, and they were tied to a contract, and now they've got to do radio, and everybody's got a TV. So we've had these big shifts in things. But the frustrating part is, you know, the truth is we get comfortable, right? It's kind of like an analogy I use. It's kind of like when you're dating and you're in a bad relationship, and we know people, I know people, we all do, who go from one bad relationship to another bad relationship to another bad relationship. And their reasoning is, well, because I'm gonna be with this person. I'm like, yeah, but they're bad for you, just like the other person was bad for you. I'm like, yeah, but this feels right. I'm like, no, It doesn't feel right. It feels familiar. And I think that a lot of our struggle, a lot of our fear is because things that felt familiar don't feel familiar anymore, and it's new. And so we have to realize that we're in a new relationship with the world. There's some things in our world that are just different, and we've lost that comfort of what's familiar. And that doesn't mean that it won't ever be good again. It just means, like you're telling your son, we have to grow some new muscles now. Now our relationship with the world is going to be different, but we're in charge. We are in charge of how we build those muscles. We're in charge of how I build my faith and how I build my family, how I structure my time at home. I'm in charge of how I, build my schedule, my calendar. I can spend time with my family in the middle of the day and watch a movie, and I'm not commuting all over town for meetings anymore. So, looking for those positive things makes a huge difference.
Right, exactly. That's true.
Right, and then now that you mentioned this, as a dad, as a husband, I mean, you already mentioned some things, so maybe you can give us a little more insight, more detail about strengthening those relationships in the family, because we are all in the same
Boat.
in the same boat, in the same surrounding, same situation, and how can we husbands, how can we dads be that support and help and lead and give that leadership to our families? I mean, you mentioned something to schedule or something, but I mean, any more suggestions?
That's a good question. That's the hard part, right? The typically what I think about is, I'm supposed to, the Bible says, the husband's supposed to love his wife like Christ loved the church, right? So my job is to love Heather as if, even though I am imperfect, I need to love her as if with a perfect love. I need to serve her the best that I can. If I was, when we hit a hard time, I try not to think. I should try not to think, what did she do wrong? What I should do is approach it from, okay, if I was the perfect husband, what would I do? Not what would I do now, because I'm not perfect, but if I was the perfect husband, how would I handle this? Right? If I was the perfect husband and I came home from a long day and I was tired and she didn't want to cook, what would the perfect husband do? Well, whatever that is, that's what I should do. I should do that, even though I'm not perfect. And it's kind of the same way with my kids. The Bible talks about train up a child as he should go. Well, it took me a long time to realize that, and you know this, having 5 kids here, right? That each of those children is different, and each of those children needs something different.
Right. It's true.
Being able to understand, my oldest, our oldest is 19, and he's a lot like me. He drives a pickup. He's an outdoor guy. He likes to fish. He likes to hunt and camp and do all those kinds of outdoor things. Our 16-year-old is super, super smart, very gifted in math and science, and he's in band at school. And when he was 14, he was smarter than I was. Or I could more. He's so much smarter than me. So those 2 teenage boys need something very different from me. I can't feed them the same,
Right.
I can't feed them if they're plants, you can't feed them the same fertilizer, and then my daughter is different. So for me, it comes down to, I just have to be mindful that I can't treat them all the same. And sometimes they say, I don't know if your kids say this, but my kids say, well, you don't treat us the same. And I'm like, you're right, I don't. because you need this and you need this and she needs that. My goal is to make you as strong and healthy and independent as possible. And you're strong with this, but you're weak in this. So I need to help you with that. That's the hard part.
But now that you say that, I think that God does the same thing with us. It's like God is looking at us and say, you know what,
Mhm.
you're weak in this, you're strong in that, and so I'm going to treat you differently. And so don't be comparing yourself with your friend or your neighbor. It was like, why does she have that? Why am I having this? Why is it? Or even now, it's like they're going out and I'm not going out. Whatever it is, that to say, you know what, God is doing the same thing with me. Like a mom, I will do different things for my different kids. And there was a moment, because all my kids are very in age, so it was a moment that when they were all little, well, one gets one thing, they all get the same thing, but now of course
Right.
not. And now, yes, like you say, it's like, well, why did she get the law? Why did she get that? How come I didn't get it? Whatever it is. And it's like teaching them, well, everyone's different, you're not going to get the same thing as your 5-year-old, and vice versa. So even right now we can say, thank you, God, that you're doing something different in me than my friend, because with this that you're doing in me, I'm going to be stronger and better person for the future and for now, instead of something else.
Right.
Correct. So I think it's I think that's, thank you. I think it's a very good point
Yeah.
of that.
And I think, I don't know what you think.
Well, and
Go ahead.
Just
no, go ahead.
that usually, I mean, we try to compare. Oh, look at that, my friend, my one of my relatives, or and has a better this or a better that, or not just physically. I mean, maybe a better relationship or better, or a better healthy, a very health. I don't know.
Mhm.
We're comparing ourselves with others, and I think what I have discovered through my marriage is just like we each one, I mean, each of our of our children, and everybody is an individual. The families also are individual. I mean, there's no other family like the other. I mean, we cannot put rules and suggestions for all the families in general. I mean, there will be things that work, and because God has that mission for each family.
Right. So each family is also different.
So each family is different, right?
It's true. Oh, I think you're froze. Are you there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I see you, but I see you just frozen. But you can listen to me too. That's great, even though I can't see you anymore. That's good. Did you want to say something, Tom? That before my husband was going to say something.
I think I lost you.
Oh.
Can you hear me now? I think I lost him too. I don't know how to do this.
Should
do we put an end? Yeah, decir. I'm not sure if you're watching. Oh, there it is. Tom?
Oh,
there you are. Okay.
I lost you for a minute.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. Thank you. I was like, I don't know what to do. It's like watching. I don't know. It's like, it has never happened before. Like technology. That's what happens. But it's okay. After my husband was speaking, were you going to say something, Tom? You were going to say something. I don't know if we're talking about.
Oh no. I was just. I was just agreeing. I think that's the real challenge. Is not every family's the same, right? Like what works for my children at this age, we couldn't do when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old.
Right.
But you're exactly right when they say, well, you don't, how come I don't get a lollipop? How come I don't get, what they get? You kind of have to say, well, if I buy you an Xbox, do I get your little sister an Xbox? She's not ready for that. Just like you don't need, and it's hard. There's not a real easy solution sometimes.
Right.
And I think I think that's where we have to have grace with each other, right?
Right, exactly. And understanding and respect for each other. And one thing that you were mentioning, Tom, that I think is also important, and then my husband gives me a great testimony for this, is by watching, it's good right now, in a way it's very good social media, because you get right away what's happening and what's going to happen in the world, what's happening in this, the news. You know right away, which is great. But the fear is that there's so much, and I think all of us fall into this, seeing Facebook. I don't have Twitter anyways, in Instagram. And like I was telling Tom before our ministry, I never used Facebook, to be honest with you. And now with our ministry, I'm using it. And so I'm getting to see all this that's happening. And there's a moment I'm like, oh my God, it's so dizzy. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I didn't have Facebook anymore. But like, no, for the ministry, for God, we'll do it. We'll continue. Sure. But it has given me the understanding of how people are so bombarded with information, and that we need to step back and say, I'm not going to watch it for this time. I'm not going to do it with this. I need to just step back and pray and see what God is asking my family, what He's asking me as an individual and my kids, and not just go with what I see or hear, because there's so much division going on right now in everything, health-wise, government, everything's just division. And so it's just, and that can be very distracting in what we need to do as a parent or as a husband or wife,
as a family.
So I think it's very important, whoever's watching this, like you were saying, Tom, to turn off your phone at a certain time, not to watch some things anymore, and just to be with your family and give that time so the anxiety and the stress doesn't overwhelm you and doesn't get to you. I think that's very important that you were saying that, a specific tip. And I know we're probably going to run out of time. And before we finish, I wanted to make sure that with the backpack friends, well, actually two things. On your blog, you mentioned about advices of how to make the best choices now with all the uncertainties. So if you can just mention that, what are the best choices in these uncertainties that you spoke about or that you wrote about, it would be great. And then I can ask you the last question about backpacking friends and how we can help in that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's hard, right? This is just this is a very unique time, I think. But for when I try to decide what are the best choices that we need to make as a family, as a husband, as a father, as a business, as a ministry, it all boils down to, you have to know your why. Like, why? What's your motive? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing Backpack Friends? Why am I doing music? Why am I, trying to love my family? That motivation of knowing the answer to why is a big deal. And for a lot of us, if you're like me, you're a man of faith. Your faith is a big part of that. That's I am who I am because of my faith.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a big part of it. The other part is, I think as parents and as spouses, as husband and wife, sometimes we play the short game and not the long game, right? We want to fix things now. We want everybody to be happy. We want the fighting to stop now, right? Like right now, stop fighting. But we have to play what I call play the long game. And that is, when I turned 53 this year. And so I tell people, that I'm almost middle-aged because I want to live to be 120. So, so when I so I'm trying. So when I turn 60, I'll be middle-aged. And so when I'm 100, I want to be sitting on the back porch with my boys and my daughter and my kids, great grandkids, or whoever, laughing and talking about stories, because I want to make my decisions based on what that will cause, not today, but if I make this decision today, what will life be like next year? Right? It's like a diet. Like, I want a cheeseburger today. I want a hamburger and fries and mushrooms and cheese and jalapenos and some chorizo. Like, I want all of that. Yes. Yeah. I want that. But, diabetes runs in my family. Heart disease runs in my family. And so my daughter is 11 years old. So I want to be the one to walk her down the aisle. So I can't eat cheeseburgers all day. I can't have, chorizo and tacos. And I can't have cookies every day because I don't want to go down the aisle on a walker and a cane. I want to walk down the aisle, and I don't want to die of heart disease and have some other man walk her down the aisle. I want to walk her down the aisle. So every night when she says, "Hey, Dad, can we go on a bike ride?" And I think, oh, I don't want to do that. Then the thought in my head is Michaela's wedding, Michaela's wedding, Michaela's wedding. And I get up and I go on a bike ride because that's the reason, that's what I have to do today to get what I want in 20 years. And so making choices about my family or my wife, our relationship, our house, our family, it has to be the same thing. It has to be, yes, we all make mistakes. We have to give each other grace. We have to remember that we're all doing the best we can. Everybody's doing the best they can with what they have.
Right.
But the decision I make today is not about today. It's about next month and next year and 10 years from now. And if I can make the right decision today, enough days of making the right decision will give me the right life, because those things stack up. So I always go back to, why am I doing this?
Right.
It's because and for me, it's usually faith or family or both.
Which is I believe the priority, if that hopefully everyone can do that, putting their faith first and their family, so you can go forward, and this will be a much better world. And with that saying, no, go ahead.
Just before you go to the last question,
Mhm.
Tom, 28
Years.
28 years of marriage, and once again, congratulations. And I always ask this.
That's true. He does.
Since our honeymoon, we were went to our honeymoon, and we stop and get to know someone who has been married for 15, 40, whatever years. So I will ask this to just, if you can share three advices that you have learned during these 28 years for your marriage. I mean, what would you recommend, suggest to others? We know that each family, each marriage, also they are different, but what has helped you? Like this, and some people have said, "We'll never go to sleep mad or upset with each other." Communication, but I mean, with you, you can share just those three before the last question.
Sure. Oh man. Okay, so that's a good question. And you're recording this, right? So I want to show my wife this later. So number one is, she is always right. Right? And I mean that. Like, if I have come to the realization or the belief that no matter what the issue is, I could always do something better, right? There's always something that I can improve. And so if I take the idea that my job is to serve her, then she's always right. Even if I'm right and she's wrong, she's right. So that would be number one. Number two is, don't go to bed angry. Like, we made a promise to each other when we were first married. I can't believe I'll tell you this, but when we were first married, newlyweds, we had our first big fight, and I don't know I can't tell you what we were fighting about, but she got mad and I got mad, and I left the house and got on my motorcycle and took off because I was angry. Well, then she got in her car and she drove off. And all I could think of was, if one of us had a wreck, that's not the way we want things to end, right? You don't want something to happen out of anger.
Right.
So we made that commitment that that we wouldn't leave the house and we wouldn't go to bed angry.
Okay. I like that.
And the third thing is, I think, is pray together. I mean, we have to be especially for our kids, like we have to be united,
Right.
right? And there's nothing more humbling than to pray in front of somebody, right? When you pray together and it removes all your ego and all your pride, that is very much a strength.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good one. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like the spot. Very good. The Holy Spirit work. Very good. And Tom, at the end, just so we can finish this, in doing the backpack friends, if there's anything that you would like to mention or that we can help, or anyone who's listening now or will listen in the future, what we can do for backpack friends in order to help more families get food.
Absolutely. No, so Backpack Friends, go to backpackfriends.com is the easiest way to find it. We have several things. We have 2 ways to give if you wanted to give. One goes to just to buy food. We have a wish list on Amazon and all that kind of stuff of macaroni and cheese and granola bars and juice boxes and fruit cups and beef sticks and all those kinds of things, supplies that we use all the time.
Okay.
And then we have a place where people can give if they want to give money to help with operations, so that if they want to help with, if you run a business, you have operating costs, you have things like printer paper and light bulbs and trash bags, those kinds of things. And those kinds of things help because then we can go to people and say, if you wanted to do this other, then 100% of all the money you give will go straight to food because we don't have to buy printer paper this month,
Right.
There's if people wanted to do a food drive, we have a food drive on the list on the website of different foods that we use regularly, and anything on social media, anything to like our Facebook page. We were talking about social media earlier. We are on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, and you can find us just about anywhere.
Oh, I talked to you about that one.
So, but yeah, and it's a blessing. It's a very fulfilling, especially for someone like me who, I taught middle school before I started doing church work. I have done youth, you do youth camps and you do things with your church and you're always around kids, and then you have kids, and then now we're feeding kids. So it's just a natural thing for us to be involved in. And it's a huge blessing to be able to connect with people in the community who would never come to our church.
Right.
And so it's just an extension of a way to build community in our town.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for letting us know that, and for having the time in your Saturday out of your family at this moment to talk about this. And hopefully some people that are listening now or in the future can hopefully get those tips and put them into practice so they can have a better family. Well, not just about just be stronger family, that we all want that, of course, and helping out in the community. And it's a very concrete way to help out in the community now. If you're looking for something to help or go about, you can always do Backpack Friends. And thank you so much for being in A.R.T Domine, which is a Latin word for thy kingdom come, Lord, because everything my husband and I were trying to do, and actually I didn't say my name first, but Kelly Vet and my husband, Jose, trying to really build in the family what God is asking of us as a couple. And so as well, please share that whoever is listening, so that way they can help out families in that area, spiritually speaking, in all the areas that we're trying to do that. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. And we're praying for you, for Backpack Friends, and for your family. So thank you, and praying for all the families who are watching and will watch later as well.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Tom, for doing that. I mean, for following God's will and for doing what you have. What are you doing? I mean, with Backpacking Friends and with within church and with example. I mean, I think we had to set example also, not for our own, our own glory or for our own egos, but I mean, to help other families too. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. God bless.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bro. Thank you.